Mabuhay, everyone. This is Kevin again. Welcome to Philippintastic. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about one of our favorite things, filling out governmental forms. Since I recently did this myself, where it's still fresh in my mind, and then for those of you who will be doing this in the future, or maybe interested in doing this in the future, just to give you a little bit of a heads up on how to do it and what's required. This form specifically is the Affidavit of Support for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So if you plan on coming to the Philippines and marrying your girlfriend or fiance, and you would like to take her with you to the U.S. or have her come over there to live with you, you will need to fill out this form eventually. So just beware, a lot of paperwork you need to go through when you marry a Filipina. The first thing you'll need to do is to fill out an I-130, which is a petition to have your spouse allowed into the U.S. to be with you. Now the specifics for that one is if you're getting married or you are married already. There is another form you can file for a fiance visa, which means your significant other can join you in the U.S. Prior to you getting married. So that's a different way of doing it, and I've heard and I've read online that one actually is a little bit more time efficient. There's not as long as a wait to get that visa for the fiance visa. And you'll also, after you fill out the I-30, you'll receive, once the petition is accepted, you'll receive an email from the Department of State where they'll give you a case number and a receipt number so that you can log in through their website. And this is where you'll submit your documents, the Affidavit of Support. Let's take a look here. This is the Affidavit of Support. This is required to fill out for your spouse to show that if they're joining you in the U.S., you have to prove that you have the financial capability to take care of them while they are waiting on their green card, because they will not be allowed to work, from what I understand. It's considered illegal until they are officially accepted as an immigrant and given a green card. So this is basically saying you have enough money to support them while they're there and while they're waiting. Okay, simple explanation for a complicated form. And one thing to note, make sure that you have Adobe Acrobat Reader, because if you do not and you try to fill out this form, I'll show you a little bit later, but it runs into some problems where it won't allow you to fill in some of these boxes. So as long as you're using Acrobat Reader, you shouldn't have any problems. At the top here of this form, you don't need to worry about any of these boxes. This is specifically for the person that will be reviewing your form. So don't worry about any of that. That's only for US CIS. Where it says start here, now this is where you start filling in the boxes. And the first thing you need to put is your name. So you're the sponsor, you're the US citizen, and so you're going to put your name here. Regular name like John Smith. And then for my situation, I am the petitioner because I'm helping my wife get an immigration status. So I filed and I'm filing for my relative or my spouse. So this is probably the most common one. And if you have different circumstances here, I would definitely advise you to do a little bit more research online. Like I said, I found some useful information on YouTube. I found that some attorneys will actually help you and give you advice. If you have really complicated questions, they might be able to help you out. But in my circumstance, I am the petitioner, I'm the husband, and I'm filing for my wife. For the rest of these boxes, you don't need to worry about this. If that's your situation, you're just marrying somebody, or you've married somebody and you want them to come to the US. So don't worry about any of these other ones. And then down here on part 2, information about the principal immigrant. So this will be your husband or wife. This is the person that's coming to the U.S. to be with you. So this is pretty straightforward. The family name, their last name, to the mailing address. So this is going to be your wife or your husband's address. Now, if you're living together, just go ahead and put the address of where you're living at currently. This will be specifically for the person who's immigrating. Since it's in the Philippines, don't need to worry about the state or the zip code. Other information they require, the country of citizenship. This is for your spouse again. So we're still filling out spouse information. So of course, if they're from the Philippines, you would say Philippines. Their date of birth, alien registration, and USCIS number. Now, for this one, I was curious because I don't know about the alien registration number or even what that is. And then for the USCIS online account number, we do have one of those. When we filed our I-130, you end up getting an account number. From what I had read online, these two things are not needed. They're not really required. So if you don't have these numbers, don't worry about it. Just skip over them, leave them blank. Your spouse's daytime telephone number. Then we move on to part 3. Information about the immigrants you are sponsoring. So immigrants that's from the US. Kind of a similar circumstance to part 1. For me, I checked yes for box 1. I am sponsoring the principal immigrant in part 2. So I'm sponsoring my wife, Joji, to get a visa. These other two are a little confusing to me. And again, this is one where I would ask for advice from an attorney or a lawyer if you can. Because for one, in my situation, my wife does have a daughter, my stepdaughter Shansi, and we want her to be able to come to the US with us. And we thought that by filling out the I-130 and then also this Affidavit of Support, that she would be included because she's under the age of 18. So technically she's a dependent of our family. But from what I understand, each person that you're sponsoring for this affidavit needs to have their own individual I-130. So if your wife or your husband who's in the Philippines, if they have children from a previous marriage or previous relationship, you'll need to file an I-130 for them as well as individuals. In my situation, for Shansi, we're going to have to file another I-130 for her. The more specifics and nuances that are in your own situation, the more confusing it can get. So again, I would ask somebody who's from a law background. This section is basically stating who's coming and who are you going to be supporting in the US. I don't need to put anything else in any of these boxes. Basically, this whole page should be blank if you're just filing for your wife or your husband. For part 3, information about the immigrants that you are sponsoring. They want to know how many, enter the total number. I'd put 1 here, right? It's just my wife for now. And then for part 4, this is where we'll go back to the sponsor's name. So the person who is the US citizen, you're going to put your name, full name here. This is important, but if you're an expat, some of you might not have a US address. But I think it's kind of important to have, just so that your documents in the US can have a location to go to in the States. So I still use my parents' address in Illinois. I don't have it forwarded to me here in the Philippines because it's just too complicated. When I was living in China, I constantly had things getting lost in the mail. So if you have an address that you can use, like a family member, maybe even a friend's house that you trust, I would put that here. Put your name and then put the address where you trust them to receive those important documents. Number 3, make sure you mark no, my physical address is different than my mailing address. And then they allow you to fill out this part up here. to give your current address of where you're at now. And this is one of the problems I had by not using the Acrobat Reader. I was not able to fill out this information. So as long as you're using Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat, and then you've adjusted it so that you can edit the file, you should be able to add your secondary address here. Country of domicile, that would be the US. Add your date of birth, the city or the town that you were born in, the state that you were born in, and the country. Social security number. I'm a US citizen. I was born there, raised there. I have a US passport. The sponsor's number, and again, they have this USCIS online account number. Again, it's not required. I never served in the military, so I just checked no. When I'm traveling, I like my internet to be fast, secure, and private. That's why it's a good idea to use a VPN service like NordVPN. NordVPN comes in handy if you're a frequent traveler. If a platform isn't available in your country, simply change your location. It just takes one click. Open the map, click a location, and you'll be connected in seconds. It's that easy. And don't forget the internet promo code expat247 for even more savings. NordVPN, the fastest VPN out there. Moving on to part 5. So part 5, like I was unsure of how many people to enter in these boxes here, but it's actually fairly simple. As you're filling out the form in Reader, it should tally the numbers for you that you've already entered in the above pages. And so there should be a number 1 here, and then it's just your wife or your husband and yourself. So no need to fill out anything else. And then this number at household size will be 2. And then the last part, which is the most important and the purpose of this document, is the employment and income. So they want to know just what you do, who do you work for, and how much money do you make, because you have to meet certain criteria and able to have someone come over to the US with you. The poverty level line is around 18,000 per year, give or take. I would check on the website, which actually this site here, Travel and State Gov. This provides you a lot of information that you need to know about the visas, processing times, payments, so you'll know how much you need to pay. If you're employed, you would check the box, and then I'm a teacher, so I put teacher, my current employer. Also, I check self-employed as I do some freelance work. If you're a retiree, and you're not working, you would just check box 5, or possibly you're unemployed, and then your individual annual income. They just want kind of an estimate of how much do you make per year. And then also, you can add your spouse here as well. And then for the next page, again, don't worry about the top box. That's only for the official that's checking your documents. But you'll see here, line 20, they want to know the current annual household income. So this is where you're going to add together what you listed for your income along with your wife or husband. For lines 21 and 22, again, this is for if there's more people than just you and your wife, so I don't need to worry about this. And then the next half of this deals with federal income tax returns. So this is where it's important to have all your information in one place. They're going to want to know your most recent tax year, definitely, that's required. And if you want to, you can actually add your second and third most recent tax documents. From what I've read online, that can only benefit your application. So if you have those documents handy, pretty easy just to upload all these documents to your Department of State account, which is where they require them. Definitely need the most recent year and the total amount of income. So this is where you're gonna actually put what was on your taxes from last year. If you don't meet those poverty guidelines, let's say you didn't make very much money last year, you can still include other assets. So if you have money that you've saved over the years for like emergencies, or if you're saving to buy a house or whatever, You can enter that money here. Also, whatever current balances you have in your checking account, you can just add those together and put those into this box. Number 2, if you own any houses or land or anything, you can list the actual value of those items. And then number 3 would be a little bit of everything else. So if you have any stocks, CODs, bonds, cryptocurrency, you can list the total value of all that stuff into this box. If you don't make enough money according to the poverty guidelines, you can use a sponsor and list them on the form with you. So for instance, if I didn't have enough money, I could ask my parents, or I could ask somebody else who's a relative, put their name and income on this form, so that there's 2 sources of income. The reason they make such a big stink is because they don't want people from other countries coming to the US and then after being married for a few months or a few years, divorcing, and then those people are still there on a visa and becoming a burden on the government and the welfare office and stuff. If somebody's actually coming to the US, they're going to have a support system, a financial support system to take care of them once they arrive. Part 7, I didn't use this. There wasn't anything that I needed to list here. So it depends on your financial situation. Be forewarned that if you're in the process of filling out forms or uploading forms to here, and it's taking you a while to find where they're at, this will log you out, and then you'll have to log back in. It gets to be a little frustrating. This is basically a legal contract saying that you are fully financially responsible for the person who is coming to the US. Just make sure that you read through all these agreement terms so you know what to expect. At the bottom of this page, page 7, make sure to check this box, because if you don't check this box, I'm sure that they would send it back to you and say you need to refill the form. You can read and understand English. You understand everything. If you're the only one filling this out, and in most cases you would be, you don't need to check that you have an interpreter. You don't have a preparer unless you use somebody like a lawyer to help you fill this out. And the sponsor's contact information, again, this is you as the US citizen, so you'd put your date, time, phone number, along with your, if you have a different mobile number, and an email. And then here you'll put your signature along with the date that you signed this document. If you're using the Adobe Acrobat, you can go up here and sign the document electronically. It takes some practice. Definitely double check all of your papers. So for me and my wife, we're about 1.5 years into this process now, and I feel like we're maybe 60% of the way done. Another good site I would recommend just for getting resources is one called boundless.com. They are a company that actually will help you fill out forms such as this for a fee, but they often have helpful information on each form and its purpose. Also, they tell you what to expect for filing fees, which I think is handy. And the U.S. Department of State, this is where you'll submit your forms for your affidavit. There's a different site that you'll use for your I-130 petition after you get married, or even for your fiance visa, and that's the uscis.gov. And this one is where you'll fill out that information and upload those documents. Make sure you keep everything organized or you'll go crazy. That's all for me for today, for my very stale and boring presentation, but hopefully for those of you who are coming to the Philippines now, congratulations. And if you're going to get married to your Filipina girlfriend, you will need to do this eventually if you plan on having them come to the US. I hope this helps, and if you have any further questions, I can try to help you the best I can. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell at the bottom, and we'll talk to you next time. Salamat.